President Biden, in a statement, congratulates Congressman Mike Johnson on being elected Speaker of the House and says he'll work with him, quote, in good faith. But he's urging House Republicans to do the same with him and Senate Democrats, saying the American people have made it clear that's what they expect. The president emphasized that government funding only lasts through November 17th, and it will require bipartisan cooperation to avert a government shutdown. Mr. Biden writing, quote, even though we have real disagreements about important issues, there should be mutual effort to find common ground wherever we can. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
So we've just covered it. I mean, you think about how exhausting it was for us to cover all these shenanigans. Congressman Russ Fulcher joining us from Washington, D.C. What was it like to live it?
I never want to live it again. Let's just put it that way. We just went through an exercise where we fired a speaker, and then we subsequently rejected Scalise, Jordan, Emmer, three other top people in the House that attempted to be speaker. So, Nate, when you put two-ish independent, egomaniac room together and tell them to go solve a leadership problem. Everybody there thinks that they're the person in charge, and so solidifying around an individual turned into be a significant challenge.
Congressman, I tell you what, we're having a cell phone issue with your phone right here. We're gonna try and address that here because we're getting just about every other word that's coming out of your mouth. So, cell phone technology being what it is, the halls of the Capitol being what they are, we're gonna try and drop back and probably hit the reset button on the phone here. All right, there we go. Now. You have to duck into some weird areas when you call this program in Washington, D.C.
Okay, I'm going to go to hopefully that'll be better.
Okay, so we're going to try and push through this. Tell us about Mike Johnson.
Mike Johnson is somebody in the Republican caucus who has not made anybody mad yet, and that's a good thing for this group because. The previous four have made somebody mad along the way. Now, as soon as Mike gets a chance to engage Nate, he's probably going to make a few people mad, and so the opinions might change. But right now, you know what? If you kind of think of a Mr. Rogers of Congress, that's kind of Mike, and he's a good guy. He's a very amenable guy, very non-controversial guy, and right now, he's our new speaker, and you know what? I think he's going to do just fine.
Is he tough enough for the job? One of the knocks on Kevin McCarthy was that he compromised too much. The people didn't like the deals. One of the knocks on Jim Jordan was that he was too strong. So, I mean, the position does need a degree of how do I word that? Strength. It does need a sharp edge or two. Can he do that?
I think so, but I think also I would just add. I think Speaker of the House is probably the ugliest job in politics right now. It used to be kind of an administrative type of role that just directed traffic of the activities of the House, and now it's turned into this political, this highly politicized office. And I think that's one of the reasons why we wound up coalescing around Mike, because he really doesn't bring a whole lot of controversy. There's not a lot of emotion there. I mean, he's been around for a while, and he's liked by everybody. He seems to get along well with everybody, and the leadership style, I think, he's just gonna have to be like anything else. He's gonna have to grow into it, but he's gonna take that job back more towards the administrative role that it used to be, and you're going to see the chairman and other leaders across the entire body pick up a lot of the decision-making, Nate.
Congressman Russ Fulcher joining us from Washington, D.C. For over the past 3 weeks, there's been a lot of posturing. There's been a lot of meetings. There's been some, I think it's safe to say, there's been some raised voices. There's been some high emotions. And I guess there was a meeting last night. Mike Johnson gets the nod. Today, the House is in unification. Can you share what that process, what it took to go from the 20 to 22 to 25, losing 20 to 22 to 25 Republicans over Jim Jordan, to now being unified over Representative Johnson?
Hopefully, the process taught all of us that vacating the chair is not typically a good idea. It's never happened in history ever, and we pulled that trigger. I think it was October 3rd. And it's taken us this long to get the wheels back on the bus. And it's the dynamic I was trying to explain earlier. You put, 200 plus leaders in a conference room and tell them to go select a leader out of the leaders, and you get what you got. Everybody's got a resume of making somebody else mad along the way. Mm-hmm. And so people take that personal, and it just has been a really bad dynamic. I think hopefully we've learned not to just do that. If there's other ways to deal with issues internally. And honestly, I've known Mike a long time. He is not one of those people that I or anybody else would have picked as the likely successor to Kevin McCarthy. But under the circumstances, he might just be the right one. There's not a lot of baggage. There's not a lot of controversy. And he promised internally in the conference meetings that the whole mission was to empower each and every member and each and every chairman, and that's where most of the decisions are going to be made. But yet to be seen how he's going to meet the challenges. But so far, I think he's going to be a real good pick.
He's going to get tested right out of the gate. Congressman Russ Fulcher joining us from Washington, D.C. He's going to get tested pretty much immediately within the next 20 to 30 days over the creation of a budget, or hopefully something close to a budget. He's going to be tested pretty soon with a defense budget that President Biden wants, which is last check, that was $100 billion, $60 billion to Ukraine. His wish is $60 billion to Ukraine, and including $60 billion and $10 billion to the Gaza Strip as far as relief efforts go. He's getting tested right out of the gate. Yep. So we're going to find out?
Yep, we are. And minutes ago, just before I picked up the phone to call you, I got the first draft of our schedule here over the next couple of weeks, and it's very, very aggressive, and it needs to be. We've got some ground to catch up on. Starts with the Israeli resolution that just passed the floor here minutes ago, and from there it goes straight into the next appropriation set of bills. We're picking that up right now. We're going to go into the night on that, go into the next 2 days through appropriation bills. And the objective within about a week to 10 days to get all that stuff over to the Senate, because they're going to reject it all, and we're going to have to go to conference and all that stuff. But to your point, he's being tested right now. We're all going to be tested, but we need to catch up, and this is what the American people asked us to do. So we got to get to work.
We're all juggling life, a career, and trying to build a little bit of wealth. The Brown Ambition podcast with host Mandy and Tiffany the Budgetnista can help.
If I do even consider lending, I always ask myself, will this solve the problem? So I know you don't have your money for mortgage because you don't have a job. So what happens next month? Oh, I don't know. I'm going to have to think about the next month. Now, it's another thing if you're like, hey, Tiffany, I have $1,000 left to pay on my car, and then I'm car note free, and I'll be able to pay you back, the 3 months I used to pay my car note. That solves the problem.
Brown Ambition.
Wherever you listen.
In 1995, veteran police officer Michael Chappell was convicted of armed robbery and murder and has spent the past 30 years in prison. The true crime podcast, In the Land of Lies, explores the untold side to this story, one that could prove Michael Chappell is actually innocent. See why people are calling In the Land of Lies incredible, phenomenal, and a must-hear podcast. Binge the entire series now, and new episodes are coming soon. Imperative Entertainment presents In the Land of Lies. Get the podcast wherever you listen.
There's been some behaviors that have been criticized. You're no stranger to criticism yourself. I do appreciate the time that you're able to carve out of your day to spend here. I understand that doesn't happen all the time. We don't just call you up and you're just sitting around waiting for us to call you and you come on the air immediately. But you do answer the phone. There's been some criticism. Can you share with us any of the conversations it's been like with your state partner from last week, who got a lot of heat here in the state of Idaho?
Yeah, and it's I got criticism for my positions. He got criticism for his positions, and that's part of the deal, and that's part of the overall dynamic. You take the two of us, and you take another 218 plus or minus, and everybody's got a different opinion. Everybody's got a different vantage point of how they look at stuff. We're all free agents in that regard. People report to or back home. And that's the nature of this beast. And my decisions, his decisions, are going to be judged by the voters ultimately, and that's just how this proposition works. But I can tell you that part of the reason that I try to respond as much as I can is people want to know. People want to have some degree of comfort that there's some order, that there's some decision-making in place, that they're not just this chaos that is unending. And the world is in a really difficult place right now. What's happening with our friends in Israel has got a lot of people shaken up, and it should, because it carries over to America. And it has real impacts. And so the more we communicate, I think the better. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to do it. Personally, my office is setting up a lot of virtual town halls because that's the fastest way to communicate with a large number of people, just to be available. But for now, I can tell you what our agenda is. It's get support to our friends in Israel, try to stem that terroristic expansion. The next thing is the budget. We clicked $33.6 trillion in debt today. And so that budget that comes through between now and November 17 has to show the effort to cut the spending we have to be able to stem that growth in the debt. And those are the first two things on the docket. There's a whole bunch of other things, but we have to provide confidence to people, Nate. I mean, we've done a good job in destroying confidence in the American government. Now we got to restore it.
There were two different budgets. One you signed off on, one you voted in favor of, one you didn't vote in favor of, and that is the continuing resolution that we're working under right now. How much of this is going to be an issue when we come back, as far as getting a plan of action going forward? Because I don't see anybody walking up to Washington, D.C. saying, hey, we understand things are tough right now with the world, so go ahead and cut our budget. No one's asking for their budget to be cut.
Right. And so here's what's going to happen, and it's in line with for those who track this stuff, the first continuing resolution that I supported. Here's what's coming back in line. And one of the things Mike was quizzed on and to what you're going to see is the called mandatory spending, which is Social Security, Medicare, and defense, and veterans, that stays untouched. And then everything else takes a pretty significant, and I say significant, between 25 and 30% haircut. That's all the agencies. It's IRS. It's the Department of Ed, the Department of Interior. All that stuff is taking some major league cuts, and that's very unpleasant. Who thought today is going to hate him probably in a couple of weeks, because that's where this whole thing's going to go. And it's all going to be hinged around anything that we send to the Senate is going to be contingent upon border security. Mm-hmm. And that was the other issue that's plaguing America right now is the border issue. Of course, that puts us in conflict with the White House. So, yes, Mr. Johnson will be tested, but he's going to walk into these meetings with a group of us around him. And that hasn't always been the case with other speakers. He's got real good support. He's not going to try to do this on his own. And I think that's the approach he needs to take.
Does Congressman Fulcher support $60 billion to Ukraine?
The short answer is no. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't under certain circumstances, but given where we are right now, no.
$10 billion in relief to Gaza Strip.
That one, if that's the Israeli support outline, then yes.
Okay. All right, and those are the two headline bullet points. So I'm sure the devil is in the details, and you get to see the pages before we do.
Yeah, on the Israeli aid, which is being formulated as we speak, and I haven't heard numbers until now, but the Israeli aid, look, these are our number one ally. This is the only democracy in the Middle East, and they are a tremendously positive intelligence partner for the U.S. America sees terrorism you have in Israel first, and so this is a partner, this is an ally that we got to take care of. A random of understanding for decades there, and so when Israel gets hurt, we get hurt. When Israel fights, we fight, and that's the way that an alliance works. There's a totally different circumstance with Ukraine. Personally, I think the answer is to increase the cost to Russia. Instead of sending unlimited money arms into Ukraine, we should be increasing Russia's costs. Why don't we starve them to death economically? Why don't we shut off their oil revenue stream? We have the ability to do that instead of just proxy warring this whole thing out. So it gets involved, but that's really speaking, and I think where most of the Republican conference is at.
Congressman Fulcher, appreciate the time, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nate.